Good evening, and I hope everyone's having a blessed Saturday. Just wanted to take a few minutes, kind of food for thought type thing. We'll start out in Matthew chapter 6, verse 24, and then we'll go from that. It says, "No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or be devoted to the one and despise the other." Now, what I'm getting at with that is that there's no sitting on the fence when choosing between God and Satan. It's only two sides there is. There's no in between, nothing in the middle. It's good and evil, and that's, in fact, that's what it is, a battle between good and evil. So if you don't belong to God, then you most certainly belong to Satan. But there's almost always a but. You can change that by coming to Christ. Matthew 11:28 says, "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." You know, Satan employs fear, doubt, persecution, and temptation of things of the world, of the flesh, any way he can to draw you away from God or to keep you right there under his thumb. Because in 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7 says, "For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power, love, and self-control." With those three things, you can break the chains that Satan has you on. You can break them. And once you've broke those, Paul says in 1 Thessalonians 5:5 that we become children of the light, for God is of the light and love. So, and after that, it's all about putting on the armor of God. And having said that, let's jump over here to Ephesians chapter 6. We're going to start in verse 10. It says, "Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day. And having done all this, to stand firm. Stand therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and as shoes for your feet, having put on the readiness given by the gospel of peace. In all circumstances, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming darts of the evil one. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of Spirit, which is the word of God, praying at all times in the Spirit, with all prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all the saints, and also for me, Paul, in opening my mouth boldly to proclaim the mystery of the gospel." So, putting on the armor of God, and it's not an armor that you take off after a long day. It's a spiritual armor that you put on and you leave on. And the weapons that we have against Satan, just like I was talking about, Satan employs fear, doubt, persecution, and temptation. Our weapons, our greatest weapon, is prayer. Always prayer. and preaching the Word of God. If you'll remember in the Great Commission, that was Christ told us to go into all the world and preach the gospel. And that is our job, preaching the gospel, bringing in the lost. But prayer and preaching are our weapons against Satan. He tells us that submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. And that's exactly what we want. And we want to take as much as we can from Satan, especially in these last days. We want to bring in as many lost as we can. And the way that we do that, we tell them about the love that God has for each and every one of us. Not by scaring them into coming to Christ, because that's not going to be true salvation. You talk to them about the love of God, the sacrifice that Jesus made for each and every one of us. You know, the rewards versus the consequences are easy. The rewards from God, in John 14 verses 2 and 3, Christ tells that in his Father's house are many mansions, and he is going to prepare for us one of them. And then if you jump ahead in Revelations 21:21, it talks about the gates of pearl and the streets of gold, as in transparent glass. So you can only imagine how beautiful of a place heaven truly is. And the radiance of God gives off the light as the sun does here. But the alternative, not so bright. At Matthew 13 and 50, it describes hell as a place where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And it was originally designed for Satan and his angels, but also for those that reject Christ. So we have to keep all of this in mind. It's a battle, and we are in the final battle right now. Well, not the final battle. Jesus handles the final battle. We don't have that kind of power to take on Satan. Jesus does, though. But what we are in is indeed a battle for souls, ours and the people around us. So we need to stay in prayer, vigilant in prayer, and continue spreading the word of God and bringing in the lost. I hope maybe this helps somebody, but y'all have a blessed evening.